Okay, hello, hello, hello. It is still March 12th, 2025. This is UFO story number 2, the third story in the series. And it takes place, as you can see, in the same forest preserve, in the same parking lot as the first experience, okay? I am in Gilbert's, Illinois, right off of Freeman Road. And I am at the Freeman Kamey Meager Forest Preserve. That's a lot to remember. And if I hadn't written it down, I never remember all these names out here. I really don't pay attention to streets either. I just pay attention to like geography and locations. Try to remember what's there. And I don't always remember names and wow, there's a dog. And streets and things like that. So one day I was out here and I had finished my hike, go figure, as normal. And I'm sitting on the back of my Explorer here, on the tailgate, and I got the hatch up or whatever, and I'm wearing my AirPods, and I'm going back and forth talking to my cousin on the phone. My cousin is great. He lives in Chesterfield, Missouri. He is a great listener, great supporter, and we talk quite a bit. So I'm doing my thing, and I'm talking to him. And it was around the same time of year. I want to say it might have been a little warmer. So maybe it was spring of 2020, the early days of spring. Maybe it was almost a full 9 or 10 months later. Maybe it was, early fall of, I'm sorry, maybe it was earlier in the fall of 2020. But I remember being here. I remember a lot of the trees, did not have their leaves and everything. And as I was talking to him, way off in the distance, I could see all this light in the sky. I could see all these little dots. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot of plane activity going into O'Hare International, Chicagoland's airport. And I'm watching all this air traffic. And, I'm about 45 miles from the city. Getting here, it's an extra 3.3 miles, so about 48.3 miles. And I'm like, that's pretty high. It's interesting how it's all stacked. And, they should be in their progression going on east and west runways towards O'Hare. Is that I-90, Interstate 90? Are they jumping to 290? Are they as far back as like Route 53 in Schaumburg? Are they in the Hanover Park area? Is that traffic flying over O'Hare for the planes that are, taking off from O'Hare and landing? And it just didn't make sense to me, being able to see all the air traffic that I could see. And then, the height at which it was at. And I'm like, how could that be descending? Or how could they be falling in line? And then a little bit of me was like, well, maybe they're, in line and they're getting rerouted over to Midway. But no, that wouldn't happen. Or maybe it's air traffic for Midway. I'm like, no, they wouldn't be coming in from this direction. That's another Chicagoland airport. And this is another video I'm going to leave after this one about airports and traffic and things I've grown up with. But I was talking to him, and I guess I was pulling the energy or feeling the vibe. And I'm like, dude, that's just a lot of air traffic, and some of it is so high, and I can see it, and there's so much of it, and it doesn't seem normal to me. So maybe I was pulling that energy, right? Or maybe I was pulling that vibe. And I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted too, but this guy who's just leaving in the truck was kind of listening when he was putting his dogs in. I get it. He's like, what's this guy talking about? Some other people just pulled in. So I'm out there, I'm talking to my cousin, and I'm walking back and forth, and it's dark. And like I said, it was probably fall or early spring, probably around 5 o'clock again, 5:30, maybe even 6 o'clock. I remember me and him were talking for quite a bit. And all of a sudden, off to my right back here, out of nowhere comes this massive ball of light, a massive ball of energy. That's the only way to say it. And as it just appeared in complete and utter and total darkness, it shot past me, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and brighter, until, right over here, it just panned out and it was gone. Wasn't really like an explosion, but it had definitely gotten bigger from, point A to point B, and it just dissipated and it was gone. And I was literally like, what the fuck was that? And I was like, holy shit, because it literally was just light and energy, right? And it just came out of nowhere. Now, what happens is I guesstimated at the time that it was about 30 yards away and about 3 stories high. So it plays on the number 3 and 3, right? And that's exactly what it takes to get here from my home, 3.3 miles. And with everything that happened, my cousin was like, what happened? And as I explained it to him, in his rational mind, he's like, well, maybe it's a plane. I'm like, dude, this was like, 20, 30 yards away from me. I'm like, it was only so many stories tall. And he's like, oh, maybe some fireworks. And I go, no, dude. I'm like, there's nobody even close to living out here. Now, there is a home about 100 and some yards back that way, but that's not where it came from. It came from within about 10 or 15, probably like 20, 25 yards of where I was standing as it went past me and then dissipated. So his rational mind is trying to explain it or ask, and I'm like, he's trying to ask questions. I'm like, no, I know what I saw. And at the time, a lot of this shrubbery or forestry wasn't here. They just planted a lot of this stuff like 5 or 6 years ago, and it grows like crazy. So some of these trees that are like bushes / trees, they just grow and they're about the size of a quarter or, a silver dollar or whatever. They weren't even here at the time, okay? And this stuff grows like crazy. They've cut it down and it grows back. And I was explaining to him, I'm like, dude, the forest is so far back. And the distant forest is so far back. I'm like, this was below the tree line. It was in front of me. It literally came out of nowhere and then just went to nowhere and was gone. So at the time, we were talking about it and I knew I experienced something completely crazy. I had been doing more research at the time, and I had been with my partner / guru, so metaphysical and spiritual things were not abnormal to me. I remember going home and talking to her on the phone, and she's like, maybe it was Archangel Michael, maybe it was Archangel Metatron. And then what I remembered was that, there used to be a tree right over here, and the tree had a beehive in it. And a beehive is totally sacred geometry, right? And I believe I read somewhere once that when you see beehives, angels are near, or they use the beehives as portals, or, ascended masters do. So what was really weird was I had totally forgot to journal that over the summer. I don't know why I forgot. And when I got here yesterday to record these videos, because I originally recorded them, prior to recording the video, I had thrown this beehive thing on the ground that I found the other day. I was like, I'm getting rid of it. It doesn't serve its purpose moving forward. I thought I was going to use it for a bracelet or whatever, and I discarded it. Well, it's still here today. I found it. So that is, part of a beehive. Just like earlier today, I found a washer in the parking lot. Things have been a little challenging in my life lately, but this is how Spirit communicates to me. They show me washers. I find washers in the weirdest places. I don't think I found one in 6 months, but I found one today. So I probably should have busted this out in the first story. And like I said, I know this sounds crazy, but this is what Spirit is always showing me. It's what they've been giving me for the last 10 years. First it was balls and spheres. Now for the last 2 years, it's been washers. So always a radius, always a ring, always a full circle, always the complete, always the whole, So that's part of my story. That's the second experience here. I would categorize it as a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, because I believe it was energy. I believe it was a spirit. I believe it could have been an ascended master. I believe it could have been an angel, or maybe it was some type of a multidimensional being just in energy form. It's possible that it was a UFO, but I'm coming through in a different dimension or in a different way, or just in a different size and space. And I'll get into that later with some other videos, let alone with things I've learned. And it's important to know that I'm just trying to relay the stories here. I'll get all messed up trying to talk about this stuff and keeping it condensed, because I know what I'm talking about, but I can't always explain it very accurately. And that's because a lot of it comes into physics and just all this other crazy woo-woo science stuff that is not my forte. So that was experience number 2. This is story number 3. This was the second experience I had, and it happened here at the same forest preserve in the same parking lot as experience number one. And you can start to see some of the synchronicities, right? You can start to see how some of this lines up and matches up. So what I'm going to do now is just read you what I journaled this summer. It probably would have been in June because I started at the beginning. So aside from reading this yesterday, I haven't really read this since June. So this second experience of light took place in the Freeman Kamey Meager Forest Preserve in Gilbert's, Illinois, right off Freeman Road in the limestone parking lot as I walked back and forth talking to my cousin. His name is here, but I'm not going to mention it. On the same iPhone 8 Plus. I was walking back and forth in the parking lot wearing my AirPods. I remember that my tailgate was open on my Explorer as I had been sitting in it off and on while talking to him after my hike. I was also explaining to him how I was looking east and it was dark outside, and of course the trees were bare and the nighttime sky more visible or observable, and I could see extremely high activity of planes or objects in the general direction of what would be the O'Hare International Airspace, roughly. I was like, dude, even at this distance and range, that is a lot of what appeared to be activity or microactivity or light objects, or at this distance, planes climbing or crisscrossing at a very high altitude. I was like, this seems too weird, even at this distance, to see that many planes or dots of light in the sky right outside O'Hare. And then I wrote I-90, Interstate 90, and then maybe, Route 53 and the 290 conjuncture right around there. And that was my estimate from here, okay? But anyhow, explaining this to my cousin was just for my reference and to share with him, as it was a little bewildering or perhaps fascinating and interesting from here. I had never noticed it. Anyhow, that's only part of the story. That's just the warm-up and what I felt was weird or unusual for that airspace. Maybe it was traffic being diverted to Midway, another Chicagoland airport on the south side. Or maybe it was all closer than I realized, and they were just clustered up before approaching O'Hare on a final descent. Maybe they were all in the Schaumburg, Hanover Park area airspace, or Elk Grove. I don't know. Anyhow, as I continued to talk to my cousin, hands-free, wearing my AirPods, pacing the small limestone parking lot, I think that I was also reliving the experience from weeks or months earlier. I don't know. It's like I was feeling it. It's like I was reminded and remembering what happened here the last time I was here. And wow, that's like 100 cranes again, all in the sky. It's been an interesting day with the birds, as well as the bald eagle, American eagle up in the sky today. They've been populating the area out here. So I was talking to him on the phone, and I wasn't in a hurry to head home, and I was enjoying the space out here and our chat, and he's very supportive, and he's a great listener. Well, I was walking and talking to him when all of a sudden, boom, zang, zip, poof, holy shit. What the fuck? What the fuck? Wow, what the fuck was that? My cousin was like, what happened? What happened? I was like, dude, this spark, this orb, this burst of light just appeared out of nowhere and shot across the prairie about 30 yards from where I was standing and like maybe 3 stories up. It just came out of nowhere, shot past so extremely fast in a straight line that seemed to slightly increase in angle till it totally exploded, reaching its zenith or end of the line. WTF was that? Holy shit, WTF. What the fuck? My cousin was like, maybe it's a firework or a plane and he went on, and I just kind of cut him off. I was like, dude, it don't matter what you're saying. I was there. You are not. I know what just happened. It just manifested itself. It just appeared. It just shot across my gaze below the distant and very, close tree line and into the elevated tree line, and boom, poof, it was gone in a big flash. What a spontaneous burst of light. Amazing. And at this spot once again. And then once again, I've got some crude drawings here pointing east, pointing west, you know, the layout, my car, some notes here. I wrote 2020, maybe 2021. And then yesterday, when I was here and I originally recorded this, I drew in the little beehive and everything and the little tree. I had totally forgotten that over the summer. I don't know why. And I don't know, well, I guess yesterday is why I had the beehive with me. So that's the story in a nutshell. That's the second one. That's what happened. That's the best I can explain it. I'll try to leave some notes and maybe some comments in the comment section and whatnot. And yeah, that's kind of it off the top of my head. That's kind of it from what I journaled. Yesterday was probably a good, you know, test run recording it and remembering some of the things. And then touching on it again today. Like I said, I came back here because I thought these can be improved and I thought they could be better. I'm literally right in the middle of where everything happened. The first experience was just 10 yards over there on a picnic table. And the second experience was probably 10 yards there, parked a little bit over to the side, right in the parking lot as I was walking around. Both of these experiences happened right here, first and second. And what's interesting and what I'm being reminded of is there goes a private jet, okay? There are birds all over the place and there's wetlands out here. And sorry, these people are leaving. They were kind of listening to. I know people think I'm a little weird probably because I got the windows down. But there's a little runway over here. There's a little private runway for these people that got their little hangars and their little planes. And they got some really cool planes too. Some old, I think, P-52s or whatever they're called. The old, you know, from World War II. And there's some biplanes. And there's other stuff. So there's a lot of activity out here, okay? There's the cranes that come out here. It's a bird sanctuary at times. There's wetlands. There's hawks and, you know, bald eagles. You've got the private airport over here where people are taking off all the time for their leisure and fun. But I know what I saw. I know what I experienced. And obviously it was not a plane and it was not a firework. And that's why I'm recording these videos. So I think I'll record another video. It'll be video number 4. And it'll talk about, you know, just me, I think, growing up near O'Hare, living in different areas in the city of Chicago around O'Hare, living in St. Charles by the DuPage Airport, and then living on the lakefront of Chicago where planes would come in all the time and be stacked over the lake and doing loops. And then living out here where there's this little private runway on the 33 longitude. There's that number again. I could literally walk a mile over there or so, and it's 33 right on the runway. And then there's a couple other airports, Lake in the Hills, and some other people out this way have got some personal landing strips. So I've always been around air activity, and I think I'll explain that. And it's why my eyes are trained and I know what a plane is and what's not, let alone something that's like 3 stories off the ground, 30 yards away from me. So that's a little bit of me rambling, but that's the story. That's where it's going. That's why there's going to be some stuff, I think, thrown into these stories when it comes to me. And I hope I've relayed everything as well as I can to you today off the top of my head and from the journal. And I hope this resonates and I hope it makes sense. And this is only the second UAP UFO story. There's a lot more to come. And then, like I said, the third story in what I'm guessing is my sequence. So what I originally thought would be just another 18 straight stories, I think there's going to be some stuff interjected in between and much shorter at a shorter pace. But I think it'll add support to everything. And it's what I'm learning as I've gone home and rewatched some of these videos. And I'm like, okay, this is not just going to be from A to Z. You know, there's going to be some stuff mixed in and intertwined. So peace, love, and light to all of you. I appreciate you listening and giving me your time. If you're going to leave comments or anything, please be, you know, positive or constructive. And I'll try to answer whatever's there, or I won't. I don't know. And all the best to you. Have a great day. Stay blessed. And spring 2025 is on the horizon, as well as the blood moon this Friday. Peace out. Have a great day.